And we're live. Welcome, everybody, to a special AMA. This is the Sparklet White Paper AMA. Thank you for joining us. You're going to have your chance to ask any questions during this stream about the white paper. We did take submissions beforehand, and we'll be getting to those questions. But if you're here in YouTube, feel free to leave a comment, and we will grab those questions as well. A couple house items here. Don't forget, you can comment on the white paper over on Reddit. There's about 24 hours left. Well, just under 24 hours because we're going to close that. Comments to that tomorrow at 9 a.m. over on Reddit. If you haven't left a comment there, make sure you go read a comment, and then the team's going to look through those, and we should be good. But those do close tomorrow, so make sure you go leave a comment for us over on Reddit. If you've not yet checked out the Sparklet White Paper, pause this stream. It's going to be live. Go read the white paper. Go watch all the videos that we have over on our website, upland.me, and this will make a lot more sense to you if you do that first. Also, don't forget, voting does begin next week. It will begin on Monday and go through Wednesday, so stay tuned for that. And with that, Dirk and Adon, thank you for joining us today for an AMA.
Hello, everyone around the world.
Let's just jump right into questions. Again, we're going to be taking both questions from the pre-submitted questions that players submitted when we posted about this AMA, and then we're also going to be taking questions from YouTube. So our first question, Dirk, this one's for you. This one comes from Kellen Das, and he asks why. He says there's a lot of details in the Sparklet AMA on what, but he wants to know why. What is the upside for players that we could not get from the ability to sell or exchange Spark in the game?
Yeah, first of all, of everything, we love to innovate. It's probably the easiest answer, but of course there's some more details to that. But that's where we're coming from, right? We always want to be at the cutting edge, coming up with new things, try out stuff. Is it working? Is it not working? But we're in an industry which is doing things no one has probably gone before. But speaking of the details, so I think first, when you think about it, we launched Spark roughly 2 years ago, and during that time, we were able to collect data and a lot of insights, how people are using Spark, what are they using for, are they staking for others, all those details and data, was actually enough for us to give, from that perspective, us a good feeling that we say, okay, we can go that step. But that's not everything, right? So first of all, it was important that we have enough utility already built out, as you can say, right? That's I think we have later also a question, right? Shouldn't we wait for more utility and so on? It's always a question when, right? But I'm just answering the question why at the moment. And we can say there's enough utility at the moment where we felt, okay, that is also good to go, right? I think also Dan's going to speak more to more utility going forward. So why do we go the step to listed or potentially listed outside of Upland? And one of the main reasons is that, as you know, there's the Web3 industry as such, and you have a lot of users who are not aware. I just spoke at an event here in London, right? When I spoke, I think it was 100-ish people in the audience, right? As, hey, who knows about Upland, right? And I saw probably 20-ish, 20, 30-ish hands going up. So as you see, these were all people there who were very deep into the Web3 industry. And so we were missing 70 or so people, right, who've never heard about Upland. But we believe is when we go and list on an exchange, we will increase our visibility. So more people will see it and will think, oh, what is that? I have to check it out, what these guys are doing, right? It's kind of a marketing when you take it like that. The other thing is, of course, credibility. So if we manage to be listed on a reputable exchange, right, people will say, hey, this token, the Sparklet token is there, right? So this is really a credible thing. I can potentially buy, in order to pursue what I wanted to do that and use it as utility in the game. And then the third reason is, of course, liquidity for the existing holders also, because right now, as you know, it's not possible to sell Spark in the game or in the metaverse itself. But you can, of course, then use that as a tool in case you decide one day, hey, I have 5 Spark, but going forward, I only need 3 Spark, what I need. So you have actually possibility to actually find a buyer potentially for your Spark. Of course, you have to run them through the full process with Sparklet and so on. We can also run through that a little bit later. Then we had, of course, a third reason is also what is that the jurisdiction has changed a little, to say it's like the regulatory environment. So there was a decision which was made mid of this year, and anyone who's interested in that, it's called also the Ripple ruling. And we see there actually a good opportunity for us actually to be that, because again, we want to be because we are a US-based company and we want to be really compliant, and we know now with the Ripple ruling that we will be compliant actually that, and that's also where we say, okay, now we have a good feeling in order to do that. And I think there was also the question, why not just do it in the app, right, or do it in the metaverse? But that also, I already explained it partially at the beginning. When we say, okay, then we miss out on those 80 or 70 or 80 people, which I mentioned today, right? Because they will still not see it, right? It's just the communities in there. So that's one of the reasons. Also, if you would trade it directly, then all of a sudden, and we come to that maybe also a little bit later, is all of a sudden when you have now supply, and demand, defining the prices, then it would have maybe an impact to our creator economy, because Spark is part of the creator economy. And we said, no, we still want that in a certain sense, to be in position to maybe find solutions, not to disincentivize the creators to create.
Excellent. Thank you. Great question, Kellen Dash. Thank you, Dirk, for that. Dirk, you talked about utility. Let's go to Adon on utility. We got a question from Uncle Penny. He says, what are your plans to increase building utility? Would making the amount of Spark you can sell for ETH proportionate to the buildings you own help to increase building utility?
Yeah. So again, I think like maybe starting from the last question, right? Like putting too many restrictions can also be problematic. So we try to find the right balance about what kind of like usage restrictions we're going to put on Spark that is originating from Upland, either as reward or discounted sales. But it can definitely be something worth to consider. And as for utility, again, I think we've detailed all of it in the white paper. I think today there is plenty of utility for Spark in form of building, construction, meta venture creation, the constructions of manufacturing of vehicles like carts, or outdoor map assets, or structure ornaments. But also in the future, we're bringing the prospect of creating legits, where you basically spend Spark instead of staking it. Obviously, something we've been talking for a long while, transportation, so using Spark to energize your vehicles as means of transportation between cities, but also for racing. And you can also see with, people, I saw a lot of questions about utility for existing structures, or why should we build structures in the first place. So first of all, I think you can see that kind of like the genesis of that with what we've done with Phase. So internal spaces are already, you can see the starting of that in Upland. And in the future, we do envision that every structure has an internal, basically, function. So it could be the home that you live in, and you can, what we envision is that you'll be able to use legit types of NFTs also as means of decoration, using these items inside of internal spaces. But more than that, you can imagine, for example, take speedways, for example, right? Today, when I launch a car race, there's a lobby, and I need to wait for everybody to join the race before I launch it. Imagine if we take the speedway and we create it into a 3D space where at the time of the lobby, people can hang out before the race begins, and you can see kind of like all of the drivers' avatars in there. So there's lots of utility that will be connected at the end of the day to everything that is built in Upland. And the common denominator of everything is, at the end of the day, Spark. So structures, the vehicles, the decor, the kind of like the wearables that people are going to wear inside this. Everything is going to keep kind of like gelling together, coming together, and becoming more and more of a cohesive product. And again, everything is powered by Spark.
Yeah, I'm diving into racing recently. I bought a new car, and so being able to hang out before a race with other racers would be so cool. That's very exciting. We have a question from Fabs Blocks. This one's for Adon on how Spark will work with manufacturing. He says, my question is, if I use Spark to fabricate at a manufacturer, will I be losing the Spark? For example, as of right now, I have 10 Spark, and I used some to do some manufacturing. Will I have 9 Spark after this goes through as a result?
So are we talking about manufacturing of map assets on map or legit? Because again, so let's break it between the two. So currently we're familiar with the current process of manufacturing in Upland, and these are all this is manufacturing of items that manifest on the Upland map. And for that, you need to manufacture them by staking Spark. So you never lose that Spark. You just kind of like lose the ability to use that Spark for the duration of the time that it takes you to manufacture the item. Then once the item is manufactured, or your manifest that you've created in the factory is complete, you get your Spark back. So for that type of manufacturing, you'll always get your Spark back. We are envisioning in this white paper a new way to create other types of items, legits, which kind of like then you need to spend Spark for an immediate outcome for those items that are not manifested on the map but are meant for use in internal spaces. In that scenario, you'll need to spend the Spark, meaning that you will not get it back. I hope that's clear, and I hope I hit kind of like the question there.
Yeah, I think so. Since we're talking about legits, we actually have a question from YouTube here. It's from More Cheese. She says, I'm very interested in the legits creation through Spending Spark. My question is, will there be information about that coming soon? How many legits you can create for X number of Spark, etc.?
Yeah, so it is on our kind of like short-term roadmap, and we'll have more information on that soon. We can't still communicate the information exactly how much it will be per each item. But I will say again, like the idea is first of all to make it accessible for creators, but not in a way that would create spamming now of like endless amount of items, right? So you can imagine that this has a deep economical effect, right? If I create now a wearable, right? Now, as a creator, I will be really cautious about creating 100,000 items of this wearable if I'm not sure that they will be bought. So I think that's good for the economy because it will create like a more natural scarcity of items and kind of like help us refrain from having spamming effects of endless amount of items in the ecosystem. And the last thing I'll say again, even when we come out with the pricing, it's still this is going to be an initial suggestion, and it still will be up for tweaking as we progress, right? So again, this is going to be a new feature that we launch. As always, we will launch it, we will study the effects, and we will make tweaks as required. So stay tuned for that information. This is something that's going to come probably, it's going to be on our very short roadmap.
Yeah, excellent question, Fazblog, and also More Cheese. Thank you for that. We got a question about treasure hunting, Idan, from Brick TV. He asks, will this transition have any impact on treasure hunting for Spark, or will standard hunts continue to yield Spark at the same rates they do now, approximately 1 every 20 hunts? Thank you for your time and commitment to Upland's growth, he says.
Yeah, so it may. And by the way, we have previously made tweaks to treasure hunts even before Sparklet. So we were always cognizant, kind of like of the output of treasure hunts. And I think yes, making Spark tradable as Sparklet will, we will still look at that on an ongoing basis, probably on a monthly basis. And I think the main change here, which I think for the economy is good, is that now we also have like real physical restrictions on the amount of Spark that can be injected through incentives and rewards, right? So it doesn't mean that we absolutely have to use that full capacity, but it does mean that we can't use beyond the capacity unless we decide to use it from the treasury, which is possible. So yes, we will keep monitoring, right? And if we determine that there's too much Spark that's being injected to the ecosystem, that can absolutely be tweaked either way. right? Either we need to support more growth and more incentivization, or we need to tone it down because there's too much being injected. So absolutely, this is something we'll look at and may change in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Brick TV, for that question. Dirk, we have a question for you from Sir Alot, who submitted this. He wants to know, will we continue to have Spark Week, including level up bonuses, or will we at least have one more before Sparklet releases?
So the general answer over that is yes, right? So, but maybe explain a little bit. As Idan also said, incentivization, we have to watch, how, and to study especially, right, how things are working and what people are doing and how much, people are transacting and so on. So when you think about it, at the end of the day, also Spark needs some kind of a monetary policy, and the monetary policy is what we also use for when we give out rewards, right? And this is let's say the level up bonuses, right? We have to see how much we want to incentivize to level up, right, to do that. And we continue having also other tools, and we're going to probably expand that tool set going forward also to just make sure that the economy runs as smooth as best we can contribute to it. Right. In terms of Spark Week, yes, we will. I can assure that we will have at least one more Spark Week. If we do more, we don't know yet at this point. But before Sparklet is coming, and by the way, we don't know yet when this is actually all going to happen. There's some external components here, which is not 100% in our hands. But currently, we're planning on having at least one Spark Week.
Excellent. I know that's a big question for a lot of players. Thank you, Sir, a lot for asking that. Black Voodoo 15 writes in, and this one's for Dirk as well. Will my 2.AA Sparks be converted to 2,880 Sparklets automatically? Let's just roll through, if this gets approved, how that will work, Dirk.
Well, the thing is, as you know, and I think what we have to have is, very good tutorials, right? Maybe some tutorials coming from us, some tutorials coming from the community, how everything works. As you know, we're going to have the bridge, right, where people have to walk through in quotation marks. I wanted to keep it that simple, right? So when someone decides to bring his 2.8 Spark outside, right? Then he can do that, and then it would be, but then it would be, what would he say, converted to 2,880 or 2,800 Spark, right? 1,000 of Sparklet, 1,000 of a Spark.
Yep. So he'll have to manually do that. Black Voodoo, great question. I know a lot of players had that as well. We have a few questions from Musita, so we'll just go through these one by one here. Dirk, this one's for you. If the community votes no, would we still be able to use Sparks on third-party apps?
Yeah, first of all, yes, they will be able to do that, right, as they wish, right, as they want to implement certain things. Also, from technical perspectives, we have to see what we're going to provide them to make things easy for them. But also, what is important, also, people don't vote over Sparklet. They vote for yes or no of the white paper, because what is most important. I also want to make this distinction here again, right, that we want to understand, do people like what we've seen in the white paper, do they vote yes for the white paper? So because then we have to say, okay, now we can continue doing the path, working with some external advisors also, and maybe also getting some other insights. All the questions we're also getting, or what we currently see on Reddit, that also will, not everything, but some of those things might go into the white paper, let's say release 2 or so.
Yeah, again, I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't left a comment yet and you have something or a comment that you want to add, make sure you go to do that on Reddit. The comments do close tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, so make sure you go and add a comment there. It's critical to this process.
I think it's just worth noting one distinction. If it ends up being a no, then if the intent of the question was, would Spark be interchangeable between players via the third-party developer tools, the answer to that is most likely no, at least at this point. Because again, the way that Spark is being kind of like made tradable with this platform is very, very deliberate in its kind of like regulatory compliance, basically. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that if the vote ends up being no, so making Spark tradable via third-party developers is most likely will not be some kind of like an immediate outcome.
And with that, we actually just got this. May be a good time to clarify this question from Joey in YouTube. So if it is a no, there will be another method presented.
Method in the sense of.
So
what sense?
I think if it is a no, we need to probably first of all understand the kind of like what was the main motivation and the main concerns stemming. And one way to do it is come up with an alternate solution that addresses these concerns at the end of the day, and then we'll take it from there. We are presenting a very fundamental change, something that we believe is hugely important and good for the overall Upland community. If the community does not approve it, we will work together with the community to find a path forward.
Excellent.
I don't know, Dirk, if you want to add something to that.
No, that's fine. That's good.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for those questions and comments. The second question from Musita here, Dirk, this is another one for you. He asks, isn't the Upland economy protection proposal sending us back to centralization?
Very good question, Musita. So first of all, when you think about how Spark is traded or treated today, right? Basically, we're selling it, right? Or people can win it, right? And that's basically, but the users can then use it, or the players can use it for staking, right? But that's basically it. Now we're getting actually more possibilities to the users, to the community, because now they will be able to, turn them into Sparklet and potentially, sell them on exchanges. So that gives them actually more, more decentralization. And we call that, as you know, progressive decentralization. I want to maybe also quickly explain that again, where we're coming from. When you think about an economic system, right, you always have, an optimal point between centralization and decentralization. So I don't want to go too theoretically, but if you have two cost curves, one starts on the bottom left and goes up to the top right. Let's say this is the cost of centralization, and the other one's actually the other way. It's cost of decentralization on the top left and then goes down to the bottom right. And they meet somewhere in the middle. That is the costs. Where those two curves meet, that is actually the best for a society. So why is not 100% decentralization always good? Might be intuitively say, hey, that's great, yeah. But the problem is what I did actually a lot of research in regarding that topic is, first of all, when you have too much decentralization, what's going to happen when you let people vote about everything? They will get tired of voting. Yeah, so because it's just everything. That's the first thing. Second thing is they might not understand a particular issue, what they have to vote about, right? That's like in real life, you have central bankers who decide over complex monetary policy because that's a complex topic, right? So you have someone who decides over it. So that's giving that. The risk what you have then to which too much decentralization is that then all of a sudden making certain interest group, they form together, and then because only 2% now vote over certain thing, which is maybe good for this 2%, but the rest of 98%, it's not so good for them, right? So sometimes it's then better to have a centralized authority who, and I assume Upland has that idea, also the Upland, the operator, right? Who wants to create actually the best for the overall system. And we always say is, we want to actually protect the Upland economy. That's our number one goal, right? Because if we don't protect it, the economy crashes, right? Everyone loses, right? And that's not good. Yeah, we don't want that. On the other hand, when you have too much centralization, let's say you're a completely centralized operator, like in the Web 2 world, right? You say, you know what? I don't like X1's face, I'm just kicking him out of the game or take all his assets away, right? This is now the advantage of blockchain, right? That we can say, no, we're not going to do that. So we're trying always to find the optimal part, right? Which is then the best for the overall and what protects the economy the most. Hopefully That was not too theoretical, but that's how the idea of progressive decentralization works, that we say at the beginning, we have to protect our plant, which is Upland, right, in order to avoid that people are using some loopholes. When we see their stability, we as the operator can start to stepping back, right, and handing over more authority to the community. We did that by introducing voting in general, and we now introducing that voting over the white paper, right? That's also something. I think the big decisions will always go up for a vote, but some smaller decisions, day-to-day decisions, right, we probably have to still do in a centralized manner.
Excellent. One last question from Musita here for you, Dirk. Why didn't, and I think you touched on this earlier in this, but he says, why didn't Upland wait for Spark as fuel for cars before announcing Sparklet? More utility would bring more desire for Sparklet.
Yeah, I wish, we were the time machine. We would be 2 years in advance. We would develop much more and so on. It's always the question, when is the right time, right? And, I or no one really here can say what is the right time, but we feel right now it's actually a good time. We feel confident enough to launch it. And of course, over time, we will introduce more utility and, like fueling your cars with it and whatever, Idan already explained.
Excellent. A few more questions.
I think it's also, David, I think it's also super important to understand about the window of opportunity that manifested here. Again, this didn't kind of like, the sense of urgency that we kind of like associate with this effort has to do with the timing and the changing regulatory environment in the US. First of all, this is great news for the US Web3 industry. I think it gives us opportunities, and I think the risk of not doing this now is, first of all, we think that this will create a positive process overall, where the US legislator will put together the right regulation for the Web3 industry in the US. The problem is that may create the process that we're doing today that can turn it in the future to something that is a bit more cumbersome and a bit more kind of like rigorous to pull off. So we feel that there is a very good window of opportunity for us to make this move to the benefit of the economy, which may be harder to do if we wait to the future.
Excellent. A few more questions for Dirk here. This one's from Romello. Romello asks, what exchanges will Sparklet be placed on?
So at this point, we can't share anything, right? Obviously, we envision to be, make it tradable on exchanges, but we cannot say anything which one it will be.
And one more. This one's from Orel0. He says, if I use Spark to build in Upland and do not plan on selling it outside, if the proposal is accepted, will I need to make any disclosure to tax authorities?
I wish I would be a tax advisor and can tell you what to do and what not to do, but we as Upland or as the operator, we never give any tax advice.
Yep. Great question. Thank you from Romello and Orel0. A question for Idan from DimGeo. What are the benefits of selling Spark and Sparklet, and what are the risks?
What are the benefits as a Spark owner to sell the Spark? I mean, I guess the only benefit is that you can now do it, so you can liquidate it if you choose to do so. Your benefit would be what you get for it in terms of whatever currency that you sold it for. I'm not sure I understand 100% this question though.
I think it would be good here just to go through the benefits of Sparklet and maybe some of the potential risks.
Again, I think we covered a lot of it. I think the benefits of Sparklet is basically everything that Dirk mentioned, and I think it's important again, like the liquidity that owners will have on potentially centralized exchanges in the future is going to be very, very big and very, very favorable to the seller. I think that's an important point. Like we are kind of like with this move, we're trying to tap into some of the most liquid, markets in the world today. So that's super important and super beneficial, I think, for Sparklet holders. And then all the benefits that they're covered at the beginning, I think there's no reason to reiterate.
Very good. Thank you, DomGeo. I am God, I am, writes in for Dirk specifically, and says, I would greatly appreciate if Dr. Luth, with his expertise as an economist, could elucidate, that's a big word, Upland's vision for long-term players, particularly hodlers, in light of the current and anticipated evolution of Upland's economy. How does Upland intend to ensure a balanced and rewarding experience for these dedicated participants?
So when you're really a dedicated player, you are in because you want to create something, right? Or you want to come there because you want to have just, fun. You come there because you want to just meet other people and socialize with them. So there's several reasons, or maybe you're a FIFA fan and you want to collect stuff, right? So there's always reasons for people to come and to be in Upland for the long haul. And we're all talking as Upland is not a game or like a metaverse you play for a month or 2 months and you take it away. As you know, we're constantly adding new things to it, and there will be always something to do. But what is very important is the rewarding experience comes from more users, right? And I think that is also, what you call also a little bit the network effect in economic theory, what we want to actually, accelerate. So when you think about it, because just to make it also very simple, so someone now sees Sparklet listed on an exchange. He said, oh, what's that? He's coming to Upland. I said, that's interesting. Actually, I like what I see. I've played Monopoly in my childhood, and now I can do this and can do even more here, right? He or she starts playing, right? And starts building stuff and so on. So more, and he maybe creates content, maybe becomes a YouTuber and lots of things. You get the idea, right? He gets engaged, saying like this. But now, since he's now engaged, now new players are coming in and they see even more activity happening. And they say, oh, I like that particular thing this particular user is doing. Maybe that's the first guy or girl who's doing that, right? And selling something. I want to do something similar. I have a similar idea. This one is selling garden fences. You know what? I want to sell, swimming pool fences for swimming pools or something like that, right? So, and then he comes up with his own idea, right? So, and this creates a positive feedback loop, right? So you actually accelerate, first of all, the velocity of money, and then the velocity of ideas, the velocity of transactions. And I think once there's more happening, you all know that, right? When you go to a restaurant, there's only 2 people in there. Okay, maybe you can have a quiet conversation with your partner, right? But when it's more crowded, it's more fun, and you meet new people and so on. So it's the same idea here. The more people, the more action, the more things. And that, I think, is, to our mind, the most rewarding experience for the players.
Excellent. I am God I Am. Thank you very much for that question. Lockie has a question, and this goes back to the legits question that we had earlier. But he asks, will there be the ability to burn legits back into Spark? I.e. the opposite of the legits NFT creation Spark cost.
Yeah, so there will be the ability to burn legits, yes, but there is no plan to have that burn reward you with Spark. That's probably not going to happen.
Okay, excellent question, Lockie. Thank you very much. This one's from Scientist. Let's start with Idan on this one. Scientist said, traders make profit no matter if prices go up or down. It's a win for them again and again. But how, and I think this is in here because this concern just keeps coming up. But how are we loyal players going to profit from Sparklets? Feels like we're being sold a product to investors now so they can make money. Please explain.
Yeah, again, I don't think that's the right way necessarily to look at it. I think, first of all, we've again, this is probably the 3rd time we're visiting, why we think this is beneficial for the overall economy. I think at the end of the day, it's also important to understand when we this is the first time we are exposing a resource in Upland to external market forces. But that resource is basically, that exposure is limited to the creator economy, right? It does not necessarily affect the overall economy in Upland. And we are going to maintain, we're going to reiterate it time and again, we're going to maintain our mission to protect and help and support the creator economy in Upland, because we see this as a critical, pivotal function in the Upland metaverse. So again, we have the tools in place, and we believe that we can kind of like react to external market forces in a way that is still supportive of the creator economy. Again, the fact that traders may make a profit out of trading, that is true for any open system. Again, we envision Upland as an open economy, and as we mentioned time and again, we are on a path of progressive, responsible decentralization. But for example, the fact that people may make profit on foreign trade on US dollars doesn't make the fact that the US dollars is interchangeable a bad idea. It's kind of like a byproduct, right? So again, obviously there is no intention here to do this move in favor of traders. We don't care about the traders. We don't care about speculators. We care about the Upland economy. We care about the creator economy. And this is going to be our mindset, and nothing has changed there.
Yeah, maybe also to add here is I think we discussed it, for a long time, believe us, right? So what should we do that? And, because obviously we have always shied away from that a little bit, and the way we, constructed the economy and, UPEX with a fixed exchange rate and so on, right, was all, to shield, from external forces. However, in terms of Spark and the way we build it now is when you think about the trade-off, we think that there's a net positive coming out of that step or by this initiative. Then just the downsides of being just traded and speculative and so on. So we believe that the upside is here, that we have hopefully more users coming in, right, and engaging, right, then the potential that people are trading outside of Upland and speculating around. And as Idan said, we still again implemented, tools to actually shield the economy, especially again the creator economy, from the negative consequences.
Thank you, scientist, for that question. Lord Flash wrote in and he submitted a question, and he said he's not really a fan of the name. He had some suggestions for us, but I thought it would be a good time just to discuss it. Don, this is for you. How did we come up with the Sparklet name?
Yeah, so a couple of underlying issues here is first that again, as everybody knows, Spark as a whole denomination is very, very, very valuable, and this was a conscious decision we've made when we introduced Spark. The problem is that when you compare that to the vast majority of tokens that are being traded today, for Web3 natives, right, for crypto natives, it's not going to be necessarily palatable, that denomination as a whole. So there are a much more reasonable price point is reflected by the use of 1,000th of the Spark as Sparklet. So that is basically the base of, first of all, why we needed a different name, right? Because we can't call both denominations Spark. So now it becomes a question, okay, what does best represent 1,000th of a Spark? And trust me, we had a lot of discussions about the name, but I think like intuitively, Sparklet does sound like a smaller subset or smaller piece of a Spark. And I think this is the primary reason why we went with that name. Obviously, people may have different opinions whether or not they like it, but that has been the decision.
Yeah, thank you, Lord Flash, for that. A7 Med writes in, and this is for Dirk. Is there any future plans for UPEX to be a tradable coin on an exchange or other trading platforms?
So there are currently definitely no plans to do that. All right, that's pretty clear. The only thing we have to say is, of course, right now we have this, this fixed exchange rate to the dollar, right? And if we all experience, especially, I think around the world, right? We had a lot of inflation everywhere. And I hope this is not going to happen because this has other impacts to the overall, also real economy. But if the inflation goes up to 20, 30, 40%, and all of a sudden, the dollar, the perception of the stability goes away, right, then we probably have also consider what are we going to do now, right? But this is a little bit also future music, but we are aware of these kind of economic shocks also, which could have an impact on our economy in quotation marks, and where we probably would have to find a solution then. But right now there are no plans to do anything with Spark on exchanges.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Dirk. Thank you.
With UPEX.
Apex. What did I say? Spark?
Sorry, yeah, with Apex.
Thank you, A7 Med, for that
Apex,
question.
sorry.
We do have plans for Spark. That's for sure.
Elijah Judah writes in, this is for Adon. He asks, in the future, will properties be exportable similarly on an exchange? And if so, would it be priced per Apex Square like a Sparklet?
Absolutely, that is supposed to be part of the roadmap for the NFT portal. So same way that you can today take your block explorers as NFTs and take them to Ethereum and to OpenSea. The same way we plan also for properties to be done. At that point, it's about the owner. So it's not that we're not going to mint properties on Ethereum. All of the minting is going to be in Upland. That means that only owners are able to take them out, and that means that also that they set the asking price if they choose to put it on sale in exchanges like in marketplaces like OpenSea. So that will determine at the end of the day the market value there.
Excellent. Thank you, Elijah Judah, for submitting that. We did get this comment from Redness, and I think it's something that we've seen come up recurring even here in YouTube chat. Redness says, I think the white paper looks great, but I fear the gas fees. Don, anything on the gas fees for Ethereum?
Absolutely. So the reason we went to Ethereum is liquidity. At the end of the day, that's the most liquid by far. Like blows out any competition in terms of like participants and people who will be able to trade the token. That does not mean, though, that we will not also in the future implement a layer 2 bridge for the ERC20 token. So that is, we absolutely, and this was very important for us to design the bridge and design the system in a way that is then expandable to layer 2. So because we probably want to, if this gets approved, we will probably want to launch as soon as possible. So the first launch will be on layer 1 Ethereum. But we absolutely do have plans to expand the bridges in the future to layer 2, so that we know gas fees are a painful issue. So, but by the way, the good thing is that when you take Spark out into Sparklet, then you can pay the gas fees with Apex, similar to how you do it today with the NFT portal. But then again, we hope that also in the future there are going to be layer 2s that are going to be more effective with gas payments.
Yeah, thank you, Redness, for that. Djock writes in, and this was actually over on Reddit, but I thought it would be good for here. She says, I personally have 2 worries. This is for Adon. Abuse of the system. She says, I can see this attracting a lot of users, resulting in so-called spark farming. I appreciate the preventative measures like KYC and a timer to try and prevent this, but I was wondering what would happen if this part gets the overhand, if this part gets out of hand, she says, as was with collection swapping.
Yeah, so great question, and I think we addressed some of it before with the treasure hunt question. And the simple answer that if we can't prevent it, at the very minimum, we're going to be aware of it, which will allow us to then take precautions and either reset it, maybe put in some new restrictions, maybe change the amounts that are paid out, maybe change the cooldown system. There's a lot of ways to do it. And Jack rightfully mentioned collection swapping. Again, we addressed that specifically it was cooldowns for collection. Again, there may be different solutions to different types of problems. I can't say that we know the future. We are 100% aware of any potential problem that may come up. I do absolutely can say that we are going to be monitoring this and reacting as needed to these things. So there's no way where if some kind of an abuse materializes, we don't react to it. That's not going to happen. We're absolutely going to do whatever we can in our authority to change that. And if that means that we need to tweak some mechanics, we'll do that.
Another worry she has, she says, another worry I have is the changing the Spark hours based on market prices of Sparklet Spark. She says, since this is quite vague in the white paper, it feels risky for players who have gameplay where Spark is essential, like manufacturers. I would love to get a bit more insight in how this will be handled And if it is not possible to give that information now, is there a possibility to voting later on more specific elements in the white paper like this?
So maybe starting from the end, would there be more decisions that we kind of like consult with the community as a vote implementation? Yes, that absolutely may happen. I think for the first part of the question, the important thing to understand is our mindset, and our mindset is to protect the creator economy. That is one of the most important things for us as it pertains to Spark. We want creators to be able to create in a way that is beneficial for them and their communities in Upland. That is our directive at the end of the day. And I think if you kind of like buy in and understand this mindset, it becomes an easier discussion, because there's not going to be any knee-jerk reactions that in response to potential market fluctuations in Spark pricing. They're going to be very much thought out, and they're going to be handled in a way that does not kind of like ruin the creator experience or the creator's ability to keep doing what they do in Upland. Because at the end of the day, when you hold Spark and you use it to create value in Upland, that has nothing to do with what's the current market price of it outside, right? Other than the fact that it may be easier or harder for new creators kind of like to come in. And again, there's a lot of touch points here where we can do things to keep supporting the creator community. So those fluctuations would not interfere with their ongoing operations.
Excellent. Dirk, anything to add to that?
No, it's pretty much that, right? But I also want to make sure it's probably, we cannot ensure 100% smoothness, right? Obviously, when we have fluctuations and things are going up and down, I mean, clearly we'll have more forces now coming towards us, right? And also we're going to have to study certain things, right? But we have, we believe we have a good tool set, right, to buffer those things, right? But it's not going to be perfect, because otherwise we could have just made a calculation, because sometimes we also maybe welcome some fluctuations, because then we can initiate some measures or some activities in Upland which subsidize more creation or maybe contracted, right? So we have to see how things work out. So that's also, at the end of the day, it's a monetary policy instrument for us.
Again, thank you, Dijak, for that. Let's take, we're just wrapping up here, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you for everyone who has submitted a question. I did see this pop up, and I know we addressed it before, but I do think we could maybe end on this just to reiterate this answer. Rodrigo asked, ETA if everything goes good.
In 2 hours. Just kidding. Look, there's so many external things we don't know yet ourselves, to be honest, right? So, and we want to do it as soon as possible, as soon as we have all information we need, but we cannot give any date at this point.
Yeah, thank you. Fun fact, Dirk and Idan will actually be in the cafe right after we log off this, and you'll be able to go and ask them questions. If your question wasn't asked here, please head over to the cafe and check it out. You're not going to want to miss that. We are limited in how many people can get into a cafe, so if you're not able to get in, just be patient. And as players leave, as their questions are answered, Dirk and Idan will be able to answer your questions and chat with you guys there. Again, if you haven't read the white paper, the vote is coming. Make sure you go read it over on our website. It's there. It's up on the top banner. You can click on it and check it out. Make sure you check out all the videos that have been out there. Dirk, Idan, and Danny have been kind of do interviews with a lot of our UCN members and have gone into everything in depth. We also have a video when we release the white paper where Dirk, Idan, and Danny go over everything in depth there. So make sure you check it out. You know what you're voting on. Comments close on Reddit tomorrow. Again, make sure you go leave a comment. We're compiling those as we speak. And with that, again, thank you, Dirk and Idan, for joining us. Any last words? Let's start with Dirk.
No, just one. So the vote starts on October 11th, right? Just to make sure everyone is aware when it gets started. So
it's on October 9th and ends October 11th.
Sorry, it ends. It starts at 9 and then ends at 11th. Correct.
Correct.
Getting confused with the dates. Yeah. So Yeah, but otherwise, thank you. And we still have time, right? Obviously, we're trying to do our best also in the community to respond to questions, and we're coming to the cafe now.
And it done.
Yeah, I just want to encourage everyone to keep asking the questions. We are, open and available to answer them. I think if somebody, obviously, we always love hearing why you support, and kind of like even though some of you may have concerns, but even if you don't support it, better for us to understand why, and kind of like what is the part that makes you not confident about this move, so we can actually address it. So we were just waiting to hear from all of you, and again, thank you for all the support.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in the cafe, 722 Montgomery Street in San Francisco. See you guys there in 5 minutes. Bye-bye, everyone.
All right.
Are we off?
It's looping, ending, still ending. If we're still there, everyone.
The awkward ending.
Yeah.
It's the after show here.
Looks like there was an error in ending it. I'll have to end it manually. Guys, we'll see you in the cafe. Have a good one. Dirk and Don, I'll see you over in the cafe.
All right.